Hey, Dad, it's another Todd's Tips for Homeschooling Dads. And today we're on tip 8. Your wife needs your understanding. Really, I kind of take that from the Bible where it says in 1 Peter chapter 3, husbands live with your wives in an understanding way as with a weaker vessel. Now, I know some ladies don't like to be thought of as a weaker vessel, but that's what the Bible says. And by weaker, I don't mean fragile. I don't mean bad, but in fragile, frail, exquisite. And I can remember when we brought our oldest son home from the hospital for the very first time, and we decided it was okay if he cried sometimes. He was our first child, and we were experts, and he started crying. And I remember my wife woke up, and she had already checked on him, and she said, Todd, he's still crying. And I'm like, honey, we decided if he was dry, he was well fed, and he wasn't strangling himself in the sheets, we were going to let him cry. That's okay, honey. He'll be fine. And I was out. A few minutes later, she wakes me up again. Todd, he's still crying. What are we going to do? And I'm like, we're going to do nothing, honey. And about 5 or 10 minutes later, she wakes me up again, and she's all in a frazzle. And I can remember ripping back the sheets, jumping out about, whirling around, and pointing at her in the darkness and saying, you are so weak. Now, I don't know if she saw me, but God did. And it was like a little bell went off, and he said, that's exactly how I made her, Todd. Your job is to live with your wife in an understanding way. I remember one of those times too that she was pregnant, which she often was back then, and it was in those last couple weeks, and she was, feeling huge, and she said, Todd, I just feel like I'm gonna explode. I feel like a whale. None of my clothes fit me. Everything's so skin tight. And being the sensitive husband I am, the understanding husband I am, I can remember rolling my eyes again and saying, "Oh, is that all?" And as I turned towards her, I saw a tear just slide down her cheek. My wife didn't need me to go, oh, let's buy all new clothes. We'll go get a whole new wardrobe, go get in the car. She didn't need that, did she? She just wanted me to be understanding, like, oh, honey, I'd feel that way if I was as big as you too, or something like that. Maybe it's in other things. Maybe it's an understanding of why the house isn't as clean as it once was, before you started homeschooling. Or maybe it's an understanding why the meals aren't quite the same as before you started homeschooling, or maybe it's that she's not quite as romantic as she used to be. I'm the romantic. So after an exhausting day of homeschooling, I'm the type who likes a couple candles, puts in a Kenny G CD. And I can remember my wife looking at the candles and hearing the music and going, you've got to be kidding me. And I took that really personal until I understood that it was nothing personal. My wife was just tired, and I wasn't living with her in an understanding way. Hey, dads, this is so important. The Bible says in 1 Peter chapter 3 that if we don't, it says, and it goes on, it says, live with your wives in an understanding way with a weaker vessel so that nothing will hinder your prayers. I don't understand what that means, but apparently when I'm not living with my wife in an understanding way, all the prayers that I'm lifting up for you or for others is hindered. And I don't know exactly what that means, but it doesn't sound good. I believe if we want to change the world, not be because we have great church programs or great outreach events, it'll be because you and me are living with our wives, our homeschooling wives, in an understanding way. Well, that's it. We're out of time. Until next time, you to dad.